Hello, and we are live. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And I know I say it at every episode, but we have somebody really, really special. Actually, somebody who was listened to it 34,620 times is back. And we're going to start right after this. And we are back. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And I'm really, really excited to have Mrs. 34,620 back, Miss Martine. And she is not just amazingly good what she does. She is a mental tough expert, and she focuses on the restaurant industry. Miss Martine, thank you for coming back and giving our listeners a 2.0. For the listeners which haven't heard the first episode, can you give everybody a few, cliff notes on what do you do, how do you support the industry, where are you calling in from, and what are you up to?
Okay, of course. So, cutting from San Antonio, Texas. Yay, Texas. UT is good. Okay, so, but from the way via Canada, though, French Canadian. So, yes, mental toughness, extremely important in the restaurant industry, obviously, helping restaurant owners, operators to be really in tune with their toughness, although they already know that they are tough because they're part of the industry. But it's very important to be able to dig in deeper, emotionally, psychologically, physically, for some as well, into it. So they are more prone to help themselves, but also help their teams as well.
That's awesome. So tell everybody, how did you get started? How did you get into teaching restaurateurs, out of all people, which are crazy in its own right, because to go into the food service industry, you need to have something very special. So where did that mental toughness training come from, and how come you specialized in the hospitality industry?
Yes, awesome questions. Basically, track and field. So sport is my background, sport and psychology. But track and field is my background. Been an athlete, national, international athlete. You have to perform on a, I don't want to say daily basis, but when you go to meets and things like this, but you also have to perform when you work out on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
You match that with the energy of the industry. And I think it was just the door opened. I seen the door, I'm like, oh, let me go in. And that's, how it all started. I will say, I don't believe in luck or anything like this. But definitely someone I've seen what I've done sport wise and helping people lose weight and things like this in fitness as well. And when they asked me in the restaurant industry, I was like, you know what? Yes, that actually it fits. The pressure is so on all the time. So that's kind of how it started at first.
That's awesome. And one of the biggest thing, and if you just follow the news, the last few days, the industry was bombarded with mental burnout. So there was a lot of it overall where they talked about burnout, how it affects people, and that some people don't recognize it, that they have burnout. Can you explain to us a little bit what burnout looks like, and what especially how it gets to the restaurant industry, and how you can manage it or recognize it in its early signs?
Beautiful questions. And basically, when you go in and you think of burnout, you're emotionally burned or drained, and psychologically as well. And what happened is, even if you're not in the restaurant industry, I think that you push your body so much, but you don't realize it, right? So it's as if you walking with your eyes closed. So your eyes are closed and you keep bumping into things. You keep bumping into things. You keep bumping. And you're kind of asking yourself, why am I bumping into things? Well, your eyes are closed. That's kind of why, right? But once you start opening your eyes, then you're actually realizing you way too close from the stress. You're way too close with whatever it is that's going on in front of you. And because you may not have the tools, or because maybe you have not heard about burnout before, maybe the environment that you're in, they've been pushing so much that's kind of like, man, you're not tired. Keep moving. You know what I mean? And you're not, I don't want to say you've been inured, but maybe inured is a good term, but you've definitely been pushed aside. And if you've been pushed aside, or if yourself, you decide to push aside your own emotions, your own psychology, a psychological place, then yes, the burnout is right there and it's going to happen. So what happened in the restaurant industry versus other industry, you literally have to be on all the time. Mm-hmm. So the operators and the restaurant owners who are themselves always on, they're going to push their team. And if their team are not performing, then they have to be like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to do it on my own.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, they keep moving. But then they start to feel physically like their body is physically breaking down, right? They have all these aches. The back is hurting. Their feet, they stomach. Yes, of course they are up, right? They walking around and you go, the tables and you walking around all the time and you're up all the time. So yes, your body's gonna hurt kind of no matter what. But when you don't stop and asking yourself kind of, but why? Yes, I've been on my feet for maybe 10 hours, but I know there's something else. And a lot of
Mhm.
time is gonna start physiologically within yourself and you're not really gonna see it, right? And if you don't honestly take a pause, then that's where it starts to be like, okay, but emotionally you don't feel good, psychologically you don't feel good. And that's why the restaurant industry is bombarded with all of these different burnouts and people want to quit and people do not necessarily know what to do to be able to stop it because some people obviously they like the industry, they don't want to kind of quit it
Yeah,
per
yeah.
se, right? But they have to be able to talk about it. And I think that more people are talking about it and they are not seen as like a stigma, like, oh my gosh, you have a burnout, you know what I mean? Like they're not laughed at as
Yeah.
much, right? So a first step has been made, but at the same time is okay, you recognize that you have a burnout. What are you going to do now, right? So that means that you have to be able to make some changes. And I think that sometimes people think they have to change every single thing and every single thing at the same time. You won't be able to change every single thing at once, right? So you may want to see, okay, what can I change? What is the easiest thing I can change? Maybe I can sleep a little bit more,
Mhm.
right? Maybe I can put my phone on vibrate. Maybe I can work with that if you are a server or another person like this. Maybe I can ask my boss or my manager to start a little bit later. Like you have to be able to arrange things to make you. I don't want to say be happier, but to fit into the environment and your reality. Because if you keep pushing, you won't be around. You're gonna be on the ground. Like you won't be around. Your body's literally going to say no more.
I love that the way you broke it down. And for me, let me go a little bit deeper. So people recognize it, and it's happening all the time. I mean, if you're in the restaurant industry, you spot on. The pressure is not going to let go. So how do you detect not just those early signs? And you talked a little bit about it, but how can a manager or chef within their facility incorporate small pieces of well-being into their daily routines to kind of mitigate those things which coming at you?
If it's physically, they have to be able. So the manager, the restaurant owner, the chef, they have to be able to stop. And
Hmm.
obviously, if you're in the kitchen and you're a chef and you're cooking and stuff like this, you may not be like, hold up, my back is hurting. Let me stop right now. Maybe at that exact moment you're not able to, but you're still able to think about it. You're still able to be like, you know what, my back is hurting right now. I think it's something. Okay, so when you have that 5 minutes, that 2 minutes, maybe able to go in, massage it a little bit, attempting to think, what does it come from? Like truly, what is it that at this moment it's happening? Because 5 hours ago it did not. I was just fine,
Yep.
right? So is it because this is the rush hour and then everyone is coming in? Is it because the dishwasher is behind and is yelling at you? Like, what is it? But everything is always related. It's not, you don't have singular event. All of the events are correlated together that
I
makes
love
the
that.
pressure go in and explode in some cases.
I love that. And it's so true. Now where you're saying it, it's so interconnected. There's warning signs, and there's things you can do. So you and I talk a lot about not just, recognizing and doing something about it. We also talk about, how can you have effective strategies? And for me, all of that is stress. What are some effective strategies to managing stress and maintaining that? I don't want to call it just emotional balance, but how do you work against that high pressure environment with some strategies you could use, very simply every day?
But the first thing is to be able to recognize what you're able to take on. And that's the first thing. So whether that you're an owner, whether that you're an operator, whether that you're a chef, you have to be able to see what are you really able to take on. And even if it has to be old school, writing it down,
Hmm.
what I'm able to take on, what I'm not able to take on to Collins, so be it. Because the thing is, obviously, when you have all that burnout coming up and feeling all drained, you're taking on more than what you can. right? So some people, maybe you're able to take way more than I can, or vice
Yeah.
versa. But if I'm not able to actually know, then yes, you're going to be put into that fire. So now if I'm able to go in and see, you know what, I'm able to, I don't mind to be called all the time, for example. I don't mind. Someone else be like, you know what, I like to be called, but I don't want to be called on the weekends. So you
Hmm.
have to, that means that you have to go in and set your own boundaries. And people are afraid of that because if you're an owner, if you're a manager, and if you are a chef, you come in terms of like, you may not want to make boundaries, although it's very necessary because you feel that you want to be there for everyone, you want to help everyone, right? But you have to really be stern on what you are willing to give to others, because if you give every single thing, then obviously you don't have nothing for yourself. And then when you talk to people and you start to make boundaries, what you may often hear, or maybe they're not going to tell you face to face, is they're going to say that you're selfish.
Yeah.
They're going to flat out say that you're selfish. Because if you start to say, you know what, I want you to call me, so you're the owner. I want you to call me talking to the manager, but you have to call me between this time and this time. Or on Sunday, unless the restaurant is burning down, unless that is that case, then you can call me. And
Yeah.
people are kind of like, but that's going to, they're going to feel that it's selfish. But the thing is this, whoever said, honestly, that selfish is not a good thing? Whoever
Yeah.
said that?
For me, I don't call it selfish because for me, what I have learned over the years, and we've been in practicing here actually in my office and in our businesses, is we call them what are our non-negotiables, and our non-negotiables is what we don't vary from. So,
Mm-hmm.
one of my team members, she's very like, I'm in bed by 9:30. Do not call me at 9:30, kind of thing. Also, when you give me a workload, give me an end time or give me so I know what I'm working towards. If you give me a deadline, whatever it is, what is there in it for me. And also the way we communicate with each other, we call them non-negotiables, because for me it's more than just a standard. For me it's just, what, if we want to keep boundaries, these are non-negotiables, because when we do this, we will have a much better outcome long term. So we write it down, and those non-negotiables can change, but that's been really successful. Is there something you leverage in your business?
100%. Because the thing is, without it, people work all over you. So the thing is to help the owners, to help the managers, to help the chef to even understand those non-negotiables.
Hmm.
And that's why people who do not understand, that's why they're going to come in and say, "But you're selfish." No, no,
Yeah.
no. I'm not selfish. I'm actually deciding to put my foot down. And
Hmm.
okay, no, I don't want to do that. But the thing is, you have to be able to train the owner. You have to be able to train the manager to even get used to that, because oftentimes people are not especially in the restaurant industry, they're not used to making their own ground in terms of that, because they want to help everyone. They
Yeah.
literally want to help everyone all the time, 24/7. But you're not able to do that. You have to be able to understand that. So that's definitely one of the first steps, to be able to recognize, I'm good at this. I'm okay if this person calls me. I'm okay if to do this type of task. And once you're able to have your non-negotiable the boundaries. I have a
Yeah.
challenging time with pronouncing the word. When you're okay to have those boundaries, then you can explain it to the people. You can have a little meeting about it, and everyone is talking about those. So now,
Yeah.
if you have your owner, he or she has boundaries. The managers does. The chef does. Okay, so now let's go in with the rest of the team. And now that means that everyone speak the same language. It's
Hmm.
not just like one person speak one language, this person will speak another language, and then we start yelling at each other because no one understands. No, no, we all on the same page.
I love that. What you're really saying is we all need a support network in order to. So talk to us a little bit about it. How can I build a support network which recognizes, because I honestly feel we all need somebody who sees in us what we don't see in ourselves. And sometimes it's easy for the guy down the line to recognize that I'm just about hitting a burnout or I'm hitting my limit than it is for myself. So talk to us a little bit, if you have some strategies and tips for us to build that support network, and how can we leverage it?
I like that. So a lot of time, to ask someone else, really
Mm.
to ask someone who's not even in the industry. So of course, if you have a spouse, your spouse may not be in the industry. I mean, they're there to support, right? But they may not be in the industry. Or sometimes it's going to be another friend, and really asking, do you think I've changed lately? And a good friend, not just an acquaintances, like a
Yep.
good friend who may see you, often. And do you think I've changed lately? Do you think that I am as available as I used to, or what do you see different in me, and just having that person who's going to be honest and say, you know what, I don't know if you have changed sincerely, but you look more tired, or you that should have I'm attempting to call you and you don't really answer often, or you don't really text back, or you do text back, but usually you had long answer, and now it's kind of like a thumbs up, and small things that the person itself who is in the burnout or thing may not
Yep.
recognize, but someone else from the outside, excuse me, can. And sometimes it's good because they're not in the industry. So other people in the industry,
I love
although they can be very good, but sometimes they can be biased or blinded because they too may be going into the burnout too. So they may not see those small changes, but that person on the outside can actually see way more because they've been around you
yeah.
a little bit more.
I,
Mhm.
I love that. I made myself a note here. I need to look some for the outside the industry, because if I tell my friends, hey, I feel a little tired, I only slept 4.5 hours, they're gonna tell you, what are you, wimp? Are you getting soft? What do you need? 6 hours? What's next, princess? Um, so I really love that, to look at outside, because they probably recognize things a little bit earlier than what people do within the industry. So I love how you talk about this. So where does I don't like the work life balance, because I don't think there's such a thing as balance. Sometimes you just need to work for a certain time period, and then there's a time period for balance. So talk to us a little bit. How can people in the industry kind of manage that, or balance workload versus some of the personal things which come at them?
I like that. I don't use the word balance. I actually don't. I think it's maybe an overused word, but anyway, that's another subject for another day. But basically, the thing is this: you always have so many things. Imagine that you have different balls. You write
Yep.
different things. It can seem easy to balance, and I actually did a video not too long ago with that. So let's say you're doing a plank, right? You're doing a plank, and you have the ball, one hand, one foot, one foot. So you have four. It's easy for most people. It's easy
Yep.
to balance. I mean, it's like if you're flat on the floor, right? And so you're doing a plank, it's easy. Now, if you on the floor and you're lifting one leg, so that means that two hands, one foot. Oh, they start to be a bit more challenging. What if now you start to be opposite arm, opposite hand? Most people they fall over, most people, right? And things like this. So you basically, the more that you take away, so if you had four things, it becomes more challenging, more challenging. So it's very important for people to focus on one thing. So if someone is like, you know what, everything seems to be falling apart,
Yep.
but one thing that will be good, let's focus on have something for you to be on time, for example,
Hmm.
right? Manager's always late, and may not be 10 minutes late, but always 1 minute late, 5 minutes late, like all the time. Well, but I have so many things to do, and when I leave home, and okay, we're gonna focus on one thing. Your one thing is to arrive on time. And if you were 5 minutes, then the next day we want to have 4 minutes. Or this week, for example, we want to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
4 minutes late, 4 minutes late, and then the next week 3 minutes late, and be able to write down. So if you 4 minutes late, okay, what changed from last week? Because you improved 1 minute.
Hmm.
And for most people, man, what are you talking about? But for that person, they have moved clouds and sun and everything to be able to do 1 minute. And then now it's been a month, and finally, you were supposed to start at 10, and you right there at 10. Oh my gosh, you're no longer 10:05, 10:05, you're at 10 o'clock. But you've worked 1 minute at a time, 1 minute at a time per week, per month, whatever it is for that person. So when you're able to literally just go in and say, okay, this one thing I want to focus on. Some people, if they work a lot of many hours, then they may not be at home as often, right?
Hmm.
And then they arrive home, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I don't want to do nothing. Okay, you have children or you have your wife, whoever it is that you're going home to. Maybe you want to dedicated 1 hour to that person,
Hmm.
2 hours, whatever it is, right? But at that time, you have to be fully present, no matter how challenging the things were. So we're not gonna go in when you're gonna go home. You're not gonna worry about putting the trash out. You're not gonna worry about
Yeah.
the dishes that is not done or whatever it is. No, your mind for 1 hour is going to be on that or whatever it is on interacting with whoever it is that you want to interact with. And again, at first, it may drive you crazy. You're like 1 hour. Oh my gosh! And I'm not able to look at the phone. Not able to look at Netflix. Not able to just do anything or go back on LinkedIn and do some posts. No, no, no. one
Yeah.
hour. And at first, maybe it's 30 minutes, right? And again, every time that you're going to work on it, though, you gradually increase, right, of what you do. So if it's 30 minutes and it's 45, whatever, after maybe a month, maybe more, who knows, then you're able to actually be fully present. And then you're going to see the results. Like whoever at home going to be way happier because now your mind is there. So it's really to whatever it is, and you can make a list of things because you're always going to have all these urgent things. And
Yep.
truly, no, the house is not burning. It's not urgent like that. It seemed like it, but it's not urgent like that. And you go in and be like, okay, this week or this month, this is my sole focus, and put all of energy and effort into that.
I love that. So, doing this, are there some tools, maybe apps or resources you recommend the people in the hospitality industry can use?
Yes, I'm not really an app type of person actually. I think I'm old school in terms of that. So this is one thing that really I would have to focus on myself.
How dare you
To,
not use apps? We love apps now.
exactly, and no, there's too much on the phone, and then it's slow down that iPhone. No, no. But again, like truly for in regards of that focus on one thing. Actually, that's not true. I do this one.
Yeah,
There's one app that is extremely helpful. It's called Commit 3.
love that.
Yeah, yeah, commit 3. So if you commit, and it has 3 things, and it doesn't have 1, 2, and 3, but it's just a little circle. And you will put 3 things that you want to commit on. So it can be to be present in the moment, to arrive on time, whatever it is that you put, right? But the app in that goal is obviously to do those 3 things. But now if the goal is to focus on one, you can still put 3 things. You pick that one of those 3 that is truly going to be your focus, and then at the end of your day, then boop, you click and you have a check mark or whatever that is. So that's one app that is actually pretty cool. Another thing is just to be able to have an accountability partners. Accountability partners are great, great, great tool. It doesn't have to be someone in the industry. Again, it can be a friend, it can be, but
Yeah.
whoever it is, no matter who you pick, you have to pick someone who is going to be able to tell you the truth. You're not able to be someone like, well, I know that you wanted to arrive on time, but I think, and give you a whole novel of basically excuses and attempting to sugarcoat. No, we don't need that. So you have to find one person who, when you're going to be reaching out to that person, it doesn't have to be a long thing when you're going to reach out. You don't even have to be on the phone. You can just text, right? Oh, I wanted to arrive on time. I did not today. Boom, that's it. And the person who is your accountability partner can respond, right? But no matter what they respond, you have to make sure, not no matter what, you have to make sure that they're not attempting to excuse your behavior. So sometimes it's better that they're silent and they just, okay, they've seen it, perfecto. And then after 2, 3 days, for example, depending of what you have achieved, then they can be like, it seemed like it was a hard week for you. And then you have to ask yourself the question, why was I able to do it this week? What changed so much that I was able to focus on that one thing this week, right? So that's another one. Obviously, going back to the pen and paper is always a good thing, even if you don't write a whole thing in your journal, just to be aware of what it is that you want to work on and the tools that you are choosing to. So if you decide to use the app, if you decide to talk to someone, if you don't want to talk to no one because you're afraid of the criticism, then okay, but you have to be honest with your own self. And really, whether that you start your day, midday, end of your day, whatever that you wrote, you have to be able to reflect on it and really stop the BS, right? And be like, I dropped the ball today. You
Yep.
dropped the ball. Okay, let's move on to something else for the next day.
Love that. And I can talk to you forever. And for our listeners, if you haven't done so, make sure you make yourself some notes. I have 5 key takeaways from today's conversation already. Number 1, we need to recognize it early and acknowledge it that it is. The second thing I have, we need outside support. I really love that. And I wrote that down. We also need an accountability partner. We need to get commit 3. But the biggest thing what I learned today is everybody needs a Martine. So everybody needs somebody. Make sure we have somebody like you in our backyard, because I'm telling you, it's really powerful. And to our listeners, if you haven't done so, you got to go back just the last 3 minutes, 5 minutes. All of the things she laid out is just hugely, hugely powerful. And in our industry, let me spin it a little bit, because the burnout is not just physical. It's sometimes mental. And then we go to drugs, we go to alcohol or some other stuff.
Yeah.
And I always looked at I have a group of my friends, they drink, 10, 15 beers at the end of the night because they just don't need to decompress and they think it's normal. That's not normal. And, having somebody like you on speed dial, it's a huge asset for anybody. So if anybody here has a restaurant or multiple restaurant, you guys gotta ring Martine and say, hey, I want to have you on my speed dial because my staff really needs you. So, but before we wrap up today's conversation, so I'm curious, and I always find it very interesting. What are some of your future plans? Number one. And what final advice would you have to any restaurateur, chef, restaurant manager who is struggling with our conversation today around burnout and stress?
Two things, maybe three, but two things I want to mention. One is I will like, and I'm putting the energy out there
Yep.
to work with franchise, right?
Yep.
I would really like that. So restaurant group or restaurant that have all of these concept of franchising, being able to go into that space and help them with, each franchisee or the franchise that are maybe some are more in need than others, you know what I mean? So this is definitely something. The other thing is I really and actually started to that's funny actually. The last 2 weeks I started to contact different people here in town to give back. So
Mm-hmm.
I do want to give back. There's two programs and hopefully that's going to work out. But one is a program for veterans,
Yep.
and it's veterans that are entrepreneur and starting a business in restaurant
Oh, I
business.
love that. I love
So I
that.
would like to, not would like, I would honestly love to be able to be part of it and what is mentor slash guidance slash just helping here and there. I would love that. And then the other one in terms of the giving back is to students who are culinary school,
Yep.
and they have, of course, they have here in town as well. And I would like to do the same thing. So it will be a
Love
younger people compared to the veterans, right? It will be younger people, and I think to be able to talk with them and guide them to that route, because if you can have them before they go into the restaurant industry, that means that you're able to help them to either flat out avoid burnout, for example, with this topic, but definitely avoid some of the misstep that others have done, without the education
that.
and the knowledge. So these are the two things I will really, really, really like that to involve
I,
myself in.
I absolutely love that. So now help us a little bit. We also talked about, what you're up to and all the stuff you're currently focusing on. But help us a little bit more. Give me one or two things we could use as an advice for them to just really, manage burnout.
I think one of the good things is I don't know if some people are very into reading books,
Yep.
right? There's one book that is amazing. It's called Peak and Valleys.
I love that.
Yeah, Peak and Valleys, and the person who wrote it is the person who did, and I'm not going to remember the name. I believe passed away. No, the person passed away. The person who did moving my cheese, the thing with
Yeah,
moving
yeah.
my cheese. Okay, so that's that person. So it's Peak and Valleys. Google that. You're gonna find it. But the way that it is expressed as you're gonna read this, you're able to really visualize it, right? It's kind of like you have this
Mhm.
cartoon in your head.
You
Oh, go
said
ahead.
that's from Spencer Johnson, the guy which
Yes,
wrote
thank
Who
you.
Moved Munchies. Okay, okay.
Yes, Spencer Chan. Yes. And what is interesting is we all have peaks, we all have valleys. A lot of time, once you're on a peak, yeah, man, want to party.
I
Maybe
love
you
that.
sign this big contract. You have your restaurant is full of people. You financially you're doing good, whatever you live in life, right? Yet you don't prepare yourself for the valley that you're gonna go.
Mm,
You're gonna have a valley. You're not able to just go up, 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 up forever. Everyone's gonna have valleys. But when you're able to prepare yourself once you're on that top, so that means that you may feel great, you may feel awesome, you may feel empowered. But there's gonna be a time as an owner, as a manager, as a chef, you're gonna have a patch, like a rough patch. But if you prepare yourself for it, right, before it happens, and you've been able to recognize it, when it's time for you to hit that valley, it's gonna be way different than if you boom fall into it.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? And also to be able to see it differently. So if I am, just an example, on the top of Empire State Building, I see the whole city. If I'm on the sidewalk, I don't see much, but it doesn't mean that what you see on the sidewalk is not beautiful.
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you still see things. You just see it differently than if you're all the way on the top of the Empire State Building. So that's definitely a book that is a great recommendation.
Thank you. I love that. I wrote it down. I will check it out. I'm a big fan of Who Moved My Cheese. It's actually a really cool book. And it's been around for a very long time. If you haven't done so, to our listeners, make sure you check him out. So, I can talk to you forever. And you and I spoke almost an hour before we started this. So we need to call it quits. But I really appreciate you being here today. Thanks for the giving so freely of the gift of your time. So tell
Of
our
course.
listeners, how can they learn a little bit more about you? And we will put the stuff in the show notes, but help them understand what you do, where they can find you, and where they can consume your content.
Yes. So on LinkedIn, I'm very there. I'm there daily actually. And interestingly, there's 2 days I'm not there because I've set my boundaries. Haha. But beside those 2 days, every other day of the week, I'm there. I also actually started a go-to guide for
Mm,
the restaurant owners and managers and the thought leaders of the industry, which is it's always published in the morning, every Saturday morning. A lot of time is analogy with sports, obviously, because people are able to understand better. They're able to really see it. So you can definitely read that content, and it's between 5, 8 minutes, depending, of the week. So that's a good thing. Beside that, cell phone 210-410-4671, 210-410-4671. So these are the two places.
Awesome. We really appreciate you. And thank you for sharing so freely of the things you're amazingly good at. You make it sound so easy. So for our restaurant owners and chefs here, you guys need to check out what she does here. Everybody needs to get themselves a you because you're really amazingly good at it. And then also, if you want to have additional content, behind the scene glimpses, some updates of upcoming episodes, join our Disruptive Chef Club, which is our private community where you get a front row seat of all the great things we do. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. You've been amazing. Any final words of wisdom to our listeners?
You have it within you. You
Love.
have it within you to be successful,
Yep.
and you have it within you to have peace of mind. So now you
Love.
have to put action forward.
I really appreciate it. So with that, until next time, remember to disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian, the Disruptive Chef
Right.
Entrepreneur host, here with my good friend Martine. We are signing off. We are out of here. So for our listeners, be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. Until next episode, go out there and stay disruptive, everybody. Thanks for being here today, and thanks for listening in.